For as long as I can remember, strange things have known my name. They knock on glass with one stubborn finger. They hum an off-key tune that makes my scalp prickle. They wait where the yard ends and the dark begins. I learned over time that if I hold still enough, the knocking pauses. If I put on music loud enough, the humming retreats. If I keep my eyes on the floor, the shadows lose interest. For years that was my survival routine. Look away. Keep moving. Pretend not to hear. But pretending is how the trouble grows teeth. When I was 4, my mother and I moved in with my grandmother in a big, drafty Victorian that sat like a ship run aground in the middle of rolling wooded hills. The floors groaned with old grievances, and the windows drew long streaks of weather down their panes. We lived there because my grandmother, who I adored, could no longer climb the back stairs without a break halfway. She had once been a force in the county library community, and in the ladies' auxiliary at church, but by the time I knew her well, she was mostly a sweater and a whisper in a rocking chair. Mom endured her. I worshipped her. Grandma told stories about the little people in the hills. Her word for them wavered depending on the lighting in the room and the ache in her hands. Hill folk. Fair folk. The ones under the hill. She said that when she was a girl, she made a pact with them so our family could live on their land without trouble. My mother would roll her eyes and scrub countertops like they had personally insulted her. When she overheard one of those stories headed my way, she banned them entirely. She will not fill your head with nonsense, Mom said, setting plates on the table hard enough that the forks jumped. Your grandmother's stories scared me half to death growing up. They are not nonsense, Grandma would answer, very softly. They are how you stay alive in a world that is bigger than you. I have her hair. We were the only two in the family with a head of red the color of rust and rain. She claimed the hair came with obligations. Your mother could not be trusted with it, she told me once, smiling a little sadly. So it chose you. I never understood what that meant, and by the time I was old enough to push her for an answer, time did what time does. The last night I tucked her in, she took my hand in both of hers as if I might float away. The pact is up, she said, using the old country shape of my name that nobody else used. The hill keeps its calendar even when we forget ours. They will come while you are young. You must go from here. Who? I asked. Who will come? The ones who knock. Do not follow lights. Do not invite anyone across a threshold you did not open. And if they set riddles before you, answer clean and quickly. Her fingers loosened. She closed her eyes. She looked like the first quiet moment on a summer porch. In the morning she did not wake. Mom got the money. I got the house and the land, which was funny because at 6 you are not much of a homeowner. We stayed on because free beats rent, and my mother had bills and a job at the hospital and a tired back. I made paths through the tall grass and found hollows in the woods where the sunlight pooled. I came home sometimes with scratches I could not account for. Once, in August, I came home with both forearms striped and my cheeks pinched bruised like dark thumbprints. What on earth did you do? Mom asked, her face draining. They were mad because I was on their hill, I said. They told me to leave. She sat down at the table as if her legs had misheard her. The next morning she had a lease in town. Within a week we were gone. The trouble did not care about our zip code. The trouble rode the bus into the city like everyone else. In our apartment I learned that if I followed a flicker at the edge of the window, it often turned into the voice of my name, spoken the way my grandmother had spoken it. Once I followed the voice in a winter coat and socks to the edge of the drainage ditch behind the grocery store. The drop down to the concrete culvert was steeper than it looked by day. I was 10. A clerk found me and walked me home. My mother made an appointment with a psychiatrist, who gave me words like auditory hallucination and anxiety and neurodevelopmental. I promised to stop using the words little people. That promise soothed everybody but me. I learned to carry myself like someone who doesn't hear a thing. It was not a cure, but it was a costume, and sometimes costumes are enough to get you to the next day. By 17, I was a quiet senior who drove a second-hand sedan and ate peanut butter and crackers for dinner when Mom had an extra shift. I still visited the hills after school, parking on the shoulder and walking just far enough to smell the damp leaves. I told myself I was not tempting anything. I was just visiting the memory of a porch. In October, my literature teacher covered folklore. She said the word Sidhe out loud as if she were knocking on an old door. In Irish tradition, she told us, fairies were not winged children. They were something older and more complicated, nearer to angels in power and closer to wolves in their rules. They lived under hills that were not entirely hills. They were jealous of their borders. They were patient with time. And some people were born with the sight whether they wanted it or not. She mentioned being the seventh child of a seventh child. She mentioned red hair. The classroom went a little dim around me. I remember the sound of my pen rolling off the desk and hitting the floor. "You okay?" my friend asked after the bell. We were not best friends in the sticky, confessional way of sitcoms. We were the kind of friends who had spent a decade living in each other's weather. Her name was Mallory. She had a farmhouse on the edge of the county where the road sheds its streetlights, and the sky gets honest about how many stars there are. We hung out at my place more than hers, but that afternoon she said the internet out there worked better in the fall, and she had stolen her dad's streaming password. "Come over," she said. "I'll make frozen pizza and we will watch something terrible." I should have said no. I said yes because routine can be a better promise than caution. The rain started just as we crossed the old bridge. It was a steady, hard-working rain, not the theatrical kind that slaps the windshield. Mallory parked under the oak. Her parents were out. The farmhouse was all walnut banister and family photographs, and the smell of someone having mopped earlier and not quite dried. The kitchen window over the sink looked out on a side garden filled with dark massed shrubs. If you had asked me then what I was afraid of, I would have said nothing. If you had asked my skin, it would have told you a different story. We tried the internet. The internet tried us right back, and then the rain said no. We played a game instead. At some point the oven beeped, and Mallory went to check on the food. I stayed on the couch killing vampires badly. And then it began, faint at first, the way a cold finds the bridge of your nose before you acknowledge it. A fingertip on glass. Tap. Space. Tap. Longer space. Tap. Not the scatter of rain, not a branch in the wind. The rhythm of a person trying to be patient. I told myself it was wind. I told myself it was my memory of a different window years ago. I turned the volume up. The game kept playing. The tapping tracked me from room to room. When I went to the kitchen to ask Mallory how long frozen pizza actually took to bake, there was no one in the kitchen. The side window over the sink was open a crack, though the latch was supposed to be stiff. The tapping had followed me down the hallway. The lights flickered once, twice. Thunder went off like someone kicking a metal garbage can. The power died. I do not like the dark in the country. The city has a soft orange to it, even at midnight. The country dark is the real thing. It peels your eyes back. In the living room, I could hear my name said the way a violin string sounds when it's tuned tight and someone drags a bow across it. I used my phone as a flashlight, and the phone, which had been at 92% when we parked, coughed and shut down. "Mal," I said, and my voice did not seem to belong to me. It was swallowed by the house like a spit in a well. I went toward the sound. I wish I could tell you it made no sense to go, but that would be a lie. There is a gravity to your own name. It pulls harder than fear. The master bedroom at the back of the house had a wall of glass and a window seat where we had once read on summer afternoons. That window was open wider than the kitchen latch would ever allow. Beyond the sill, squatting low in the garden, was a shape bigger than any person ought to be in a posture no human elbows could make. If you have ever seen a stump that used to be a tree and the stump has grown a kind of face if you watch it too long, you have a hint of it. Hair like draped moss. Skin like bark. Teeth green as if they had composted their own rotting grin. Eyes old as the first mortgage signed in this county. It spoke. Its voice was the sound an unkempt house makes when a straight wind hits loose slats. "Now," it said. "Now we meet." "What do you want?" I asked. The words came out thin. "Where is Mallory?" "Some call me the old man at the crossroads," it said, amused with itself. "Some call me the one who stands between. Some call me Troll. Names are a kind of furniture. They tell you where you can sit. We have come for payment." "What payment?" "The land," it said, and the word rolled in its throat like a stone. "The land. The land. Your grandmother made a bargain on behalf of her house. While she wore breath, the bargain held. She does not wear breath. The hill is patient. My grandmother was a child when she made it," I said. "You are a child," it answered, smiling so widely its face split into too many angles. "And yet you own what you do not understand." We waited. We watched. We knocked. "We have the girl under the hill. We are fair. We set a game as we set it for your grandmother, and because you have hair that burns against the rain, we allow you to answer. Win, and the land and the girl are yours to keep until you're—" "Why not just come inside and take me?" I asked, because fear makes you ask foolish questions and because something in me wanted to know the rules laid out where I could see them. It stared at the sill. The moss on its arms trembled like a fringe in a draft. "We may not cross a line uninvited." The girl came out. It chuckled. "She is generous." I thought of Mallory, who had never met a boundary she did not try once with a smile. My stomach hollowed out. "Fine," I said. "I'll play." Lightning made a white page of the window for the length of a heartbeat. In that flash, I finally understood the size of the thing. It rose to the eaves when it unbent a little. Its back was heaped with fungi like plates left in the grass after a picnic. I stood because sitting seemed like surrender. I could not tell if my legs were shaking or if the floorboards were moving. "3 questions," it said. "Answer true and cleanly, no hedge, no delay." "You answer cleanly too," I said, and to my astonishment it looked pleased. "My time is long. My time is short. My time is air. My first report. What am I?" It smiled like it already had me. I thought of the thunder knocking around the hills. I saw the reflected white of lightning in the pane. I almost laughed with relief. "Lightning," I said. "You light up the report you promise." Its grin flattened. The wind changed in the garden as if someone had turned the house. It looked toward the pasture. "Never ahead, always behind, yet swiftly passing by. For babies I last forever, for grown it goes awry." What am I? That one hurt worse because the answer touched a sore spot I kept braced every day. I saw the first week we moved to town, where the small park smelled like metal and mulch, and I sat at the edge of the sandbox listening to a song that no one else could hear until the kid next to me asked why my face looked like that, and never came back. I saw the lake we jumped in the summer we were 12, when something webbed grazed my ankle and tugged, and I came up swallowing sky. I saw my grandmother's hands the last night, one thumb blue at the knuckle. I saw the kid I had been at 8, which is so long and so brief that I understood the way the riddle was meant to cut. "Childhood," I said. The troll flinched. The smile retreated down the slope of its face. For a moment it looked almost handsome, which is one of the ways you know you are in the presence of something old, and not on your side. Beauty with bad breath is a warning. It raised one arm. The shadow of that arm dragged over the floor and up my shoes. The house breathed. Somewhere, beyond the kitchen, the freezer clicked like a settling jaw. "The thing that all things eat," it said. "Bird, beast, tree, flower. It gnaws iron, bites steel, grinds hard stone to meal. It slays a king, ruins a town, beats the highest mountain down. What am I?" This one did not just cut. It opened something. I had known the answer since I was small. The answer lived in the space between the first knock and the next. The answer sat in the rocking chair beside my grandmother's bed. The answer carried my mother's work shoes into a hallway at 2 in the morning and set them there like 2 closed books. I could not speak for a long moment anyway. The room swam. The rain punched the house with its knuckles. I thought of other riddles my grandmother had asked me years ago, the way she smoothed my hair back when I got frustrated, the way she said, "The answer is sitting in your lap, you just forgot to look down." I looked down at my hands. "Time," I said. The howl it let out reached my teeth and shook them. The panes in the window shattered along the top like a row of tiny flags collapsing. The scent that came through the broken place was wet wood and something that grows without sunlight. The lights banged once more, and the power came back with a sound like a throat clearing. By the time I could see through watering eyes, the thing in the garden was gone. Moss dust drifted, light as ash. Mallory's parents found me on the floor of their bedroom holding a fireplace poker in both hands. Their daughter was not in the house. They called the police. I do not have many clear images of those hours. I remember a deputy who smelled like peppermints taking notes, without believing a word. I remember the tight, flat fear on the face of Mallory's father, who did not know how to reconcile a missing child with a boy on his floor who looked like a wrecked scarecrow. When morning came, a farmer 3 miles up the ridge found Mallory in his barn, shivering and covered in bruises the color of failing violets. She told the truth. She said she had followed a voice into the yard because she had thought it was mine. She said there were women whose knees bent wrong like deer and men whose ribs were on the outside of their bodies. She said they had given her food that tasted like dust and then slapped the bowl away when she reached for it. She said they had asked her questions and hit her when she hesitated. The farmer wrapped her in a blanket and promised her she was safe now. Safety is a word like mercy. Good people use it earnestly. The world does not care. Mallory's parents were not cruel. They were scared. They agreed with the doctor that she would be safer in a place with locks and nurses while she stopped saying the kind of sentences that make people back away. The facility they chose had a bland landscaped lawn and a fountain out front that made the sound of money. I visited every chance I could. Sometimes she cried because the meals tasted like air to her. Sometimes she laughed, sharp and fast, at jokes I did not hear. Sometimes she stared at the wall so long the clock had to cough to remind us. When she came home 3 months later, she was a new kind of thin, and the hollows under her cheekbones made her look older than her mother. She hugged me with what strength she had and said into my ear, "I am sorry." "For what?" I asked, although as soon as she said it, I knew the answer I hoped she would not give. That night she was gone before morning. The window in her room was not broken, but it was open the width of a palm. The screen sat on the grass below it, leaning against the side of the house. Under the sill, the soft earth bore the print a huge knee might make, except I do not think that is how its weight works. In the wind at the end of the yard, I heard laughter that sounded like a porch swing in a storm. I drove to the hills that afternoon, and stood by the fence line of the old property. The house where I had eaten jam on toast in a kitchen with linoleum floors and a drip that never quite stopped, that house was still standing. We had not demolished it yet. The developer who had offered crazy money for the land had been calling. A farmer had reached out too, more modest, more desperate. I watched the house breathe out the last of its summer heat into the cooling autumn air. I imagined excavators chewing its guts out, the foundation broken and carried away. I imagined what it might mean to sell this ground to anyone with a family and a dog and a love of porches. In the end I hired a crew to tear the house down cleanly, and haul every board and brick to a landfill the next county over. The hill seemed to hold its breath while the machine bit the roof. I kept the land. I still keep it. I pay taxes on a field nobody can build on because I will not put anyone I cannot protect in a house on a mouth. I am not brave enough to give the deed back to the county. I am not stupid enough to put a foundation where a bargain was struck. Years passed. The knocking learned my schedule. Some winters it barely bothered me. Other years it asked every week, patient, unstoppable. I write for a living, which is a job that consists, on good days, of applying persistence to sentences until they learn where to stand. On bad days it consists of staring at a door you are certain will soon open and listening to whatever whispers your name on the other side. I learned, slowly, to be very clear about lines. To say no without raising my voice. To lock every latch even when I am only going out for mail. To ignore any light that bobs slow outside any window after sundown. To never, ever invite anyone in when I am not sure the invitation is mine to give. The noises never stop. The melodies still go wrong in the middle like someone twisting a radio dial. Sometimes I hear my name the way my grandmother spoke it, and the hinge of my chest loosens and I stand up before I know I am standing. Sometimes I dream I am back at the window seat and the moss is falling from the frame like confetti, and the thing outside is relieved that I finally came to my senses. Sometimes. Once, in late January, the wind cut so straight the telephone poles on County Road 14 moaned in sympathy. I woke at 2 to a series of taps that had the regular beat of a human heart. I pressed my palm to the window and felt a cold on the other side that was not weather. I put a pair of headphones over my ears and played a recording of rain. Layering rain over rain should make a mess of sound. Instead, the two storms argued until one of them left. In the morning there was a smudge of dark on the sill that smelled like a flooded basement. I do not swim in lakes anymore. I do not walk in woods without checking the tree line like a person checking a legal document for the trap. I do not tell children scary stories at Halloween, not because I object to being scared, but because the bargain is always in the middle of the sentence, and when you do not recognize it, you can accept it without meaning to. Sometimes I think about Mallory. Sometimes I think about her laughing the way only teenagers laugh at midnight on a couch in a house that feels invincible. I tried to hold on to that version of her more than the bruised one, more than the blank one, more than the thin one who said she was sorry into my collarbone. If she is under the hill, and some nights I cannot keep myself from believing she is, then maybe she is the one asking the questions now. Maybe they do not slap her bowl away anymore. Maybe she has learned the exact shape of their rules and can bend them a little the way a careful driver knows how to take a curve. Or maybe she is gone in a way that makes language useless, and my hoping is just another way of being invited outside. My mother still does not like to talk about any of it. She has learned the trick of telling the truth without ceding ground. When I bring it up, she says, "That was a long time ago," and "You were a sensitive kid," and "I never liked that house," which are all facts and none of them useful. She is better with facts than usefulness. We are not at war. We live together clumsily in the quiet house we could afford when she got promoted, two people who love each other and do not agree about the shape of the world. If you were sitting at my kitchen table right now, if you had finished the coffee I poured you and noticed that every window in this place has a lock you cannot open without stepping through 3 motions in the right order, you might ask me why I have not moved again. Why I have not left the county or the state. Why I did not flee to a city with too much light and too many sirens where the old rules cannot hear you. The answer is simple. There are rules everywhere. Some places have older rules. Some rules have better manners. The rules here, at least, are polite enough to knock. They will not stop. Neither will I. We are, in our way, neighbors. The trick is to remember which fence is yours to mend. And if you have never had your name knocked on at 2 in the morning, if you have never seen a light bob on a hill where no one walks at night, if you have never followed a melody that bent itself into a whisper the shape of your childhood, I am glad for you with a gladness that shakes my hands. The world is big enough without all the doors open. Close the ones you can. Keep the others in view. Because the things in the hills know who belongs to whom. They know which mortgages were paid with fear and which porches were bought with promises. They are old as the first fence post and quick as a weed through a crack. They cannot cross without your welcome. They can ask until you forget you never said yes. So the next time you hear one polite tap that is not rain, the next time you see one light that does not swing on the same arc as the others, the next time someone says your name in a voice that feels like a string pulled tight through your ribs, do me a favor, do not look up. Do not open the window. Do not ask who is there. Walk to a room with a door you know you locked, and if you have to, put on a song so the other song cannot find you. Tomorrow you can claim you heard the heater settle wrong. Tomorrow you can call the landlord and ask about the latch. Tomorrow you can be the sensible one. Tonight, remember this, I won a game once, and it cost me anyway. I am tired of paying with other people. And if you are tempted to ask whether any of this is fair, Whether the world is more unjust than we can carry, I will tell you that fairness is not the currency they deal in. What feels like justice to us is a weather pattern to them. That is the cruelest part. Not the teeth. Not the moss. Not the way time keeps its own counsel. The cruelty is that people like Mallory fall between rules made by things that never learn mercy and people who do not believe in anything they cannot bill insurance for. So when you finish this and the quiet in your own house gathers itself for evening, I hope you turn on one more lamp. I hope you look at whatever land your life sits on and consider what it asked of you, and what you asked in return. I hope, more than anything, that your windows do not knock. If they do, I hope you do not answer. Now I want to hear from you. Down in the comments, tell me where you stand when it comes to violence and injustice, in stories and in life. Do you believe the harm we inherit can ever be repaid without hurting someone else, or does any payment simply move the bruise? When faced with an old rule that punishes the innocent, would you challenge it head on, or protect the few you can and refuse to feed the machine? Take a side. Make your case. I will be reading, and so will others who have walked home in the rain hearing a song they could not bear to follow.